So welcome, Rob, to Escape the Rat Race Radio. How are you today?
Christian, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. I am good. How are you?
Yeah, excellent, excellent. I always enjoy these Escapees episodes, and it's a chance for us to dive straight in and find out, what the story's been like for you since you escaped the rat race. So, Rob, why don't we begin by you telling everyone listening what business you're in and what specifically that involves day to day?
Okay, so I'm an osteopath, which is a hands-on musculoskeletal therapist. So I do a mixture of like massage, joint manipulations, acupuncture, stretching, stuff like that. And I'm working with everyone from kind of the elderly to young up-and-coming athletes, and even a little bit of work in elite sport as well. It's all done from home, so everything's from home. That was one of the important things for me about starting my business. Or if I go out to work at a company, it's at a half day or like a full day rate. So before that I was a personal trainer. That was my first escape from the rat race, but perhaps I'll delve a little bit more into that later on.
Yeah, and it's funny because mutual connection of ours. Obviously, I know your wife, Fiona. We actually go back many years from college days, and one of our Escape the Rat Race members happens just to be one of your clients as well. We found out, didn't we?
Yeah, it's a small world, and he was talking about you a few times before I mentioned you, and then he said, "Oh, you know Christian."
It is a small world indeed. So, Rob, can you describe or tell our listeners actually where you used to work before you started your own business and what you used to do?
Sure. So I used to be a regional health and fitness manager for like a large chain gym. I was recruiting personal trainers, day-to-day running of the gym, like hitting KPIs for sales, based on rental income and retention of the trainers. So basically, are the trainers paying rent? Are they happy? And are they staying with the gym? So monitoring the new trainers coming in, making sure that they stay, and helping them to build their business.
Okay, and at what point did you realise that you didn't want to work for somebody else any longer? And what were the first steps that you took, Rob, to set about changing your situation?
So basically the shifts were either till like 11 o'clock at night or starting at 6 in the morning. So I was always going to bed at like 12 and then getting up at say 4 or 5. I was just constantly exhausted and always getting sick, working loads of hours. But never really sort of had the money to like enjoy my leisure time that much, or even the inclination. My days off, I'd be so tired that I'd just end up resting most of it. Because I was in charge of recruiting these self-employed personal trainers and helping them to build their business, sort of after a while, I realised I could use the steps that I was using with them to build my own business. Because I was selling it so much, I guess I kind of brainwashed myself after a while, which was a good thing. So firstly, I just tried to get one paying client. That was my main goal, was just to get one single paying client. And then just kind of, whatever the process was to get that one client, just kind of upscale that to get to 5 to 10. I can get more onto like when I knew I could go self-employed later. Then I started releasing content, got myself lead pages and Aweber to do some blogs and some videos, and started to do some sort of online work as well.
Well, that sounds great. So we've covered quite a bit there. So, in terms of, it's okay. So I was going to say, like what were the decisions or the parameters that you set yourself, Rob, to decide when was the right time to quit? So what sort of goals did you set yourself in terms of that?
Yeah, so I was constantly comparing the hourly rates because I worked out my hourly rate and it was pretty poor. I think it was something around £8 something per hour. And if you really averaged it out to the amount of time I was spending at work, it was probably more like £5 an hour or something like that. So I knew I could get 40 per hour as a freelance trainer. So I sort of worked out if I could just get 3 sessions a day in, I could reduce my working week from 50 to 60 hours down to 15. So that was my sort of, I guess, a short-term goal when I knew I'd be ready to go self-employed, was when I had 15 hours of one-on-one training booked in the diary. I knew I wouldn't need that sort of the safety net of the income from the other job, so to speak. And yeah, the way that I did that was just this thing somebody showed me once called the rule of 100. So it's essentially you talk to 100 potential clients, and this works in the gym industry. It might be a different conversion rate for other industries, but if you go around the gym floor, talk to 100 potential customers about their goals, that will give you a starting business. So that will give you, say, 10 to 12 hours personal training per week. So they were my kind of parameters. 15 hours per week, and get that 100 leads in as quick as possible.
Yeah, it's interesting that, and I think that's, you know, kind of sounds like about a 10% kind of, you know, success rate there. And if you're starting a business, you know, selling yourself and your service is something you have to get comfortable with. So, you know, how did you find that initially? Was that something that was difficult to kind of push through that and have those conversations?
It's extremely uncomfortable, to be honest, Christian, and it's something I'm not naturally geared towards. I've got better at it over the years, but what I used to tend to do was just try to show people that I cared. So I would get them booked into the diary, and then for a free session. And when their free session finished, I'd do what I guess would be called like an assumptive sale. So I would just book them in for the next week. And 9 times out of 10, between the 2 sessions, they would text me and say, how much is the session price? And then it put the ball into their court, so to speak.
Yeah, nice little sales tip there. Thank you, Rob. So that was kind of where you were. Now let's move into part 2, where you are now, Rob. So how long ago is it now since you officially quit the rat race?
So it's about 6 years. I had a look for the exact date, but it's I would say around August 2013. The exact date, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And I often ask, what's the Escape the Rat Race date? Because so often it's, you know, etched in people's memory. But I think the month and the year is close enough there.
Yeah. I'm sure I could find it if I trawled back through my diaries. The 12th or 13th of August seems to ring a bell. So.
Yeah. And can you share then with us, Rob, what are 3 of the biggest realizations you've had over those years since transitioning from being an employee to being a business owner?
Okay, so I've put down 4. So basically, you'll work yourself way harder than any boss is ever going to work you. Just be aware of that. I think for people newly starting a job, is if you used to think your boss pushed you when you've got those worries, like, you're really going to force yourself to work a lot of hours. So downtime is like a real must to avoid burnout and getting sick. And the problems that you wanted to escape from your job for in the first place, it's quite easy to run back into those again. You become your own kind of slave master sometimes. Number 2, money can never replace experiences. Things like times with friends and family that I would have missed a lot of the times. Like, my son was born a year ago. I would have missed a lot of the appointments with my wife, and like his first kind of, first couple of gurgling words, and like his first steps, things like that. I just would have been at work if I was in my old job. So extremely valuable, I think, to be able to have those experiences. And also that so-called job security, as we're always kind of sold it, especially like by your boss and by your peers at work, I guess, is a bit of an illusion. I mean, in the 6 years that I have been self-employed, so many of my friends in these secure jobs have ended up being made redundant anyway and having to look for alternative sources of income. So I think that security that we think we're leaving behind it's not necessarily there anyway, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And bonus number 4 is get yourself a coach as early as you can. I wish I'd done it earlier. Get yourself a business coach or a mentor to help you out.
Yeah. Fantastic there. Brilliant. Thank you. So what do you love most about having your own business, Rob?
So I think being able to go in like in the morning and just deciding what frame of mind you want to be in for that day, rather than letting like a stressed out boss kind of like offload all of his work onto you, or even a stressed out or a negative co-worker kind of bring you into their way of thinking. I used to find that quite commonly happen. So that basically enables me to remain more positive and upbeat, and then ultimately be more productive, and then far happier, sort of as a knock-on effect of that.
Yeah. And so often the word that's used by escapees is freedom. And it sounds like, just having that freedom of choice, waking up every morning, being the boss of you and being in control of how you spend your day. Yeah,
100%. And I don't think there'd be any going back for me now. I have experienced it.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so that moves us into part 3 then, Rob, which is where you want to get to. So did you set yourself any goals or targets when you decided to leave your job and start your own business? And have you reached those yet?
I did. They were all kind of income based, like a certain amount of money per month, or number of sessions per week, which are short term goals that I have achieved. Now I'm looking to upscale, so I want to teach my back pain treatment system to other manual therapists. I believe I've got a really simple and easy to teach sort of instructional system that can help a large percentage of back pain. So I'm just discussing ideas with sort of my mentor at the moment of ways that we can upscale that. And that would be sort of my longer term goal. But things are turning over quite nicely at the moment. I'm quite happy with the way business is going.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's interesting there you talk about now productizing the business, because, you know, ultimately there's still a trade-off of time for money. You've got clients and there's only so many hours in the day that you can serve your clients. So now productizing your knowledge, your skills, your experience allows you then, I presume, to be able to sell those products online 24/7. And it doesn't really involve you, you know, once you've made them, they're set up and available then.
Yeah, precisely, Christian. I know certainly from your early podcasts and from, I'm sure you listen to quite a lot of Ben Settle as well. The passive income is kind of an eventual dream, but it's working out what's going to be the best and most sort of ethical way to serve people and how to do that for myself personally, really.
Yeah, and I was having a chat just with another member of our community over in Australia just now, and you know, I'm just always very realistic with people and say, you know, you're going to have to prepare to work hard for a little period of time. You know, you have to work hard enough in order not to have to work hard, kind of thing. So you've got to put in the groundwork, and it might take 2-3 years, might even take 5 years, you know, but ultimately you then will be able to have more freedom in your life, and you'll have these passive income streams that have built up, but it does take time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we can also become complacent within our businesses. So I'm at a point now where it's not like a real struggle where it was at the beginning. But I know from experience, if you're not trying to build a business, like if you're not trying to grow it, and I don't want to use the word upscale too much, but it's just a great way of explaining things. I find if you're not trying to do that, it tends to just naturally atrophy and get a little bit smaller. So I'm always trying to keep that sort of that growth mindset continuing.
Yeah, no, very important indeed. So do you feel, Rob, as if you have greater potential now to achieve your life goals now that you have more control over your time?
Hugely, I would say. Yeah, I mean, my first self-employed business enabled me to go to university for 5 years and get another degree and then start another business. I mean, there's no way that at least not any of the jobs that I had would have given me the flexibility to do that. And it was just making that small sort of gap where I wasn't so tired or so busy from my actual job that I could focus on what I wanted. And I think that's something I'd like to stress to anyone that's thinking of starting their own business is try and carve out a gap in your current working life so that you can start to launch that other venture. For me, it was just asking my boss for Fridays off, which I read about in the 4-Hour Work Week. That was the first thing 6 years ago. And from there allowed me to start to build, you know, a few treatment sessions on a Friday. And that was essential to have that little bit of time. I don't think I necessarily would have made it as quickly if not for that.
Yeah, it reminds me of the previous Escape the Rat Race episode with Chris Akabusi, and I asked him about you know, having your vision, and he said don't get too caught up in just, you know, thinking what's this big end goal, big future. Sometimes that can be overwhelming. It's just what can I do today to move me forwards, you know, and just keep doing that every day. Ask yourself the question, what's most important today to focus on, to get done, to move me forwards. And I like that. Yeah. So final question, Rob, with your new entrepreneurial mindset, or, you know, 6 years of entrepreneurial mindset now that you've developed, what's the one most important thing that you believe is going to help you progress over the next 12 months?
So this is pretty cheesy, but you know, the old saying, the old cliche, your network is your net worth. Well, I'm sure we've all heard it a million times, but all of my best work has come from friends. Like all of the best, the biggest sort of pieces of work that I've had put my way have come from actual friends. And I'm not talking about, people that you've given your business card to at cocktail parties, but actual friends that we've come up in the industry together, and they can put work my way and vice versa. So I think relationships is a key one over the next 12 months.
Yeah, 100% agree with that as well. So final words, Rob, for anyone listening right now who's squashed up on that train on the way to work or stuck in the traffic jam. They want to do something different in their lives, but perhaps they're still letting fear hold them back. What would you like to say to them listening right now?
Right, well, I used to be a personal trainer, so we've got loads of cheesy quotes. So this is one that I really like, is you can suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. So, you can have that discipline to work on your little side projects in the evenings and in your free time, or a few years down the line when maybe that window is closed for you, then you're going to have to suffer that pain of regret of the fact that, you haven't launched it and you haven't got it done. I think either path is going to have a lot of potential sacrifice, a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, and potentially like some pain. So I think it's realising there's pain in either direction. So you may as well choose the direction that's going to be more positive for your life.
Great words to leave us on there, Rob. You've been a fantastic escapee on today's episode of Escape the Rat Race Radio. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.